I've gone from seeing no one to a pub full of people. Why are you all looking at me? No, it's, but yeah, this is full on. Cool, so I made a PowerPoint presentation. Everyone get excited. I'm channeling my year 9 IT lessons. Turns out my IT teacher's not a wanker after all. So yeah, I'm going to talk about paragliding. That's paragliding, that's Mount Cook in New Zealand. And I'm going to show you some pictures and videos and talk about paragliding in New Zealand. What am I going to talk about? This is, I'm going to move this so I can push the buttons and talk at the same time. Yeah, so this is roughly what I'm going to talk about. Paragliding, shock horror. That's a curveball, isn't it? Yeah, I'm going to talk about paragliding, but in all seriousness, I'm super passionate about it. I think it's a really amazing sport, especially for New Zealand, where the access to the backcountry is challenging a lot of the time. Paragliding really opens up the opportunity to get out there, see the amazing scenery without having to walk for a lot of time. So yeah, I'm really passionate about it. I love it, and I want to share some of that passion. Maybe convince some of you to go out there and give it a crack, and maybe get your license or look at some of the different avenues of paragliding, because there's a lot of different genres. I'm going to tell you who I am. I'm going to tell you about paragliding, how it works, and I'm going to tell you what I've been up to, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what's possible, and maybe inspire some people to get out there and give it a crack. Cool. That is a picture of me taking a shit. You probably didn't expect to see that, and looking at it now, I don't really know why I put it in there, but it's on there. The one on the right is a slightly more professional photo of me that Tim took for me Anyway, so this is to prompt me to... This PowerPoint presentation, by the way, it's more for me than it is for you. This is going to tell me what I need to talk about. So, my name's Ben. I'm originally from the UK. I came here 12 years ago on a working holiday visa, and I never left. The classic Queenstown story. I learned to paraglide 10 years ago with Infinity Paragliding with Blake and Swanee, who are somewhere. Swanee the reprobate, I can see him. Swanee taught me everything I knew about flying. But no, I had no idea what paragliding was before I did the course. I wanted to go and do a tandem flight. And I figured out that the tandem flight was about the same price as the introduction day, so I could go and do it myself and give it a crack. And it's still true today that you can go out and you can go and fly the paraglider yourself for roughly the same price as a tandem flight. So I decided I was shoddy, as there's a couple of tandem pilots in the crowd here tonight that want me to change that information. But no, true, for the people who are keen and the outdoors people who mountain bike or tramp and climb and do all of that, and you've thought about doing paragliding, it is roughly, wink wink, the same cost to go and do an introduction day and actually fly your own paraglider. So if you want to give it a go, it's a really good thing to do. Anyway, so I did that. I did zero research. I had no idea what paragliding really was, other than seeing the tandems flying at the gondola and at Coronet Peak. When I did the introduction day, and after the end of the introduction day, I think Swanee or Blake or someone said to me, if you come back tomorrow, you can fly off Coronet Peak. I'm like, well, I guess I'm coming back tomorrow then. Went back the next day, flew off Coronet Peak, and I was completely hooked. Really enjoyed it, and throughout the course, I learned more and more about the possibilities that paragliding really presented, that you can go places and do aerobatics and do all of these things. But at the beginning, I really didn't know anything about it. I didn't do any research or anything like that. And now I've been living here for 12 years, and I work up the skyline flying tandems. And in my spare time, when the weather forecast is really good, I like to take the day off and I'll go cross-country flying, and I'll do long-distance flights. So yeah, that's a bit about me. What's the next screen? Okay, what is paragliding? So if you look at the screen, for those of you that don't know, the one on the left is parasailing. I'm sure it's a really good activity and an amazing way to see views of the lake, but that's not what we're up to. What we're doing is paragliding. Paragliding is on the right. That is actually a picture from the X-Alps. That's a race that they do across the Alps, and they race from Salzburg, typically from Salzburg to Monaco. It's about a 1,200 kilometre race. It takes them about a week, and the thing with paragliding is that you can stay up. It's steerable, you can do long distance flights, you can choose where you're going, and if you get updrafts like the thunderstorm that's behind this guy in this picture, you can go up. So that's what it is. Whilst we're in this area, I'm going to just do a couple of FAQs, and don't feel bad if this was coming across your mind. I'm just going to address it at the start of the talk. What happens if the wind stops? Nothing. Literally nothing will happen. You'll just keep gliding and then land. Gliders go at like a ratio of 8 to 1. If you've got lifting air, you'll keep going. If you don't have lifting air, you'll just keep gliding. If you've got headwind, you'll slow down. If you've got tailwind, you'll speed up. So yeah, literally nothing will happen. What happens if you're in an air pocket? I genuinely have no idea, mainly because I don't know what an air pocket is. It's just a question that I get quite a lot. Maybe I don't know, does that mean you're in space? Or if I fly into one, I'll let you know straight away. But I don't know what that is. Can you steer? Yes, you can steer. If you can't steer and you're under a parachute, you're most likely parasailing or invading Normandy, or I don't know. How does it work? So it's a bit of a magic sport in some respects. So I've got a couple of pictures here that kind of explain it to some degree. On the bottom half of the picture, you'll see that you've got mountains and then you've got a layer of clouds. So just as, if you already paraglide, you can just you can disappear mentally for a second. For those of you that don't understand how long distance paragliding works, this is for you guys. So basically, the sun heats the surface, and then in turn that heats the air on the surface, and that hot air rises, right? As long as you've got an unstable air mass and it's cold at altitude and it's warm at the bottom, that warm rising bubble of air is going to go up, and it will keep rising until the water vapor inside of that rising bubble of air condenses and forms a cloud. Like in these bottom two photos, you're going to see that you've got the cumulus clouds. That marks the top of the thermal. So what I'm essentially doing when we're trying to fly long distance is lining up the topography with the cloud, flying in between the two, and we find rising air, we do circles to stay in the lift, we climb up to the cloud, and then we glide. We glide at a ratio on average of about 8 to 1, and if you keep repeating this process, you can fly all day. So in the longer days of the year, when the sun is more vertical in the sky, you get better surface heating. From an earlier point in the day, you can fly for longer, you can fly further. So in New Zealand, Christmas time, New Year's Eve, early January, you can fly for up to 11 hours, and you can do long flights, and you can explore quite deep parts of the backcountry from your doorstep. And yeah, it's pretty cool. There are other types of lift, dynamic lift, where you get wind hitting a ridge, and the wind hits the ridge and it's got nowhere to go back but up. You can soar the ridge like a seagull at the beach. The other type of lift, which is not unique to New Zealand, but it's important to New Zealand, is convergence. New Zealand is a country, it's basically a mountain range that's sprung out of the ocean. So what we get quite often here is sea breezes in the afternoon, which are a hindrance for paragliders. Amazing for kite surfing. If you kite out at Jardines, then you get the big sea breeze that comes in the afternoon. But for paragliding, it can shut things down, but also present opportunities. And what we get from that is called convergence. And basically, that's two air masses going towards each other, and you have one cooler, one dry, one moist, one drier air mass, and it's basically like a wave. And you can park yourself on the edge of that wave like a surfer and ride that for as long as the wave goes. Sometimes it's 40, 50, 100 kilometers. And if you look at the photo in this slide, on the top left, That's Central Otago. That's, I think the pool, there's a lake out in Central Otago. And basically you get this southwesterly sea breeze, this cool ocean air that comes up into the flatlands, and it whacks into this westerly wind. And you can see, when I took this picture, I was quite high above the bottom of the cloud. So you can fly at 10,000 feet across the flatlands, surfing the leading edge of this wave that slowly comes in across the flats. And for New Zealand, it's a really amazing place to paraglide, because you get these kind of conditions that you don't really get as much in sort of the European Alps and other places. But that's a couple of things about how it works and why it's good for New Zealand. So there's a bit of a... Let's see if I can get to the next slide here. Hang on. I'm a bit of a... Oh, yeah, there we go. So this is a video. I make videos every now and again about paragliding, and I chuck them up on YouTube, mostly because I want to share a bit of the passion. See if I can speed this up a little bit more. Hang on, bear with me. So this is a hyperlapse. This is sped up like 50 times. I'm not a bug. Like this is at the northern end of the shot over, and I sort of put this video in here to try and sort of explain. So when you speed everything up, you can really understand and you can visualize how the thermals work and what we're following. When I just show you a picture of a cloud, it's kind of not the same. So you can probably see, whilst I'm flying here, if you look at the clouds, you can see how that they're fizzing off the tops of the mountains. It's like a boiling pot. All of the thermals tend to collect over the ridge tops, and that's where you get the cumulus clouds. So you can see that the best lines to take are following the tops of the mountains, and that's your most efficient line to go. This is going through the Mount Aspiring National Park. That's the Wilkin to my left, and I'm at the moment, that's the Albert Burn, and I'm heading out to Makarua. So that just gives you a bit of an idea of, when I speed it up, how it all works. Also probably worth mentioning that paragliders, you can fit inside a backpack. They weigh on average about 10 kilos harness and glider. So the bonus is that you can carry them up the hill by yourself. You don't need to, if you don't need to take a gondola, you know, like you can perfectly capable of carrying them. And there's no engine, so you can really explore as much as you want. So I'm going to move that on. So this is, I want to talk a bit about vol-biv and why it's important to New Zealand. So vol-biv is French for fly camp. And basically what we're doing is we're combining the two sports of paragliding and camping. And in the last sort of 5 to 10 years, this has really actually come a long way with the advancements in technology of ultralight hiking equipment. I think everyone's doing like through hikes and mountaineering and things like that. We've got really light tents, sleeping bags, inflatable mattresses, and paragliding is really piggybacking off that. We also have advancements in technology with paragliding. The Red Bull X Alps is quite a popular race that has driven down the average weight of a paraglider. The development's come a really long way with that. And why that's so important for New Zealand is that we can now fit everything that we need inside a backpack that we can explore for like 3 or 4 days with food, tent, sleeping bag, and the backpack weighs between 15 and 18 kilos. If you do it right, you don't have to do much hiking. So for example, the top right hand corner, that's me and Brad. We're in the Albert Burn in the Mount Aspiring National Park. On best guess, that would take you 3 to 4 days to hike to get to that exact spot, and it would be pretty heinous bushwhacking. We flew there from Coronet Peak. We took the chairlift up. We flew there. We camped there for the night, and then the next day we had a really nice walk along the ridgeline to the Wilkin. It took us about an hour, and then we flew out to Makarua. And it's so for New Zealand, for people who are enthusiastic about getting out into the backcountry in New Zealand and experiencing all of this, vol-biv really opens up the possibilities. If you have this gear, you can fly and go and have a look around in these places that would take you a long time to get to, but you can get out the next day. And I just wanted to illustrate this a little bit. So this is a video And for those of you that know me, I'm a massive nerd when it comes to maps and Google Earth. I spend an unhealthy amount of time on Google Earth looking at the topography and things like that. But I wanted to sort of demonstrate the amount of area that you can cover. So for reference, so this is basically, you can download all of your InReach data as a KML file and upload it to Google Earth. So each point there is 10 minutes, and these are all of my InReach points over the last 6 to 7 years. So I just wanted to show you the amount of backcountry you can see in a short amount of time compared to if you were trying to do this walking or climbing, or anything, it would take you so much longer, but you're actually there, you've got the wind on your face, you've got the cliff next to you, you can see it, so for getting out there and having a look, it is a really amazing sport. Progression, I wanted to quickly touch on, I didn't just pick up a paraglider and start flying to Mount Cook, there was a bit of a route to get there. There's probably no audio to this, but I'm going to play it anyway. This is a picture of me on my first cross-country experience, just after I landed. I'm behind, can you see what I'm about to say? Fuck. I didn't do it very good, but basically, I took a thermal above Rocky Gully. For those of you that fly, you'll know that's the popular flying site at Coronet Peak. As soon as I got high enough above Coronet Peak that I could, oh my God, I'm high enough that if I wanted to, I could fly out the back and head towards Wanaka. And I was like, that sounds like a cool idea. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, late summer. I had absolutely no hope of making it. I had no idea where I was going and what I was doing. I was not prepared. I didn't have any food, water, nothing. I literally, the only prerequisite was that I got high enough that I could not land at the landing field. I just glided out the back, immediately blew it, landed, and then spent the next few hours walking to the summit of Brow Peak, and then for some reason walking down Brow Peak, even though I had a paraglider in my bag. I walked down Brow Peak, through all the spear grass, and then out to Arrowtown, and I got there at 10 p.m. It was dark. I had no phone battery because I'd been listening to music. I had no idea. There's a bit of a route there. And Macetown, for those of you that don't know, this is really important information, is that if you are ever in Macetown and you need to walk out again, you can walk out without crossing the river. It took me 6 times of walking from Macetown to Arrowtown to figure out that you can actually do it, and there's a walking track and everything. I've done it about 12 times now, but the last 6 I've had dry shoes. It's been quite enjoyable. Okay, conquering fears. So you've got to get over, what I had to do was, I'm conscious that I might be dragging this on a little bit, but conquer your fears, basically assess what I was scared of. And mainly that was with New Zealand, is that you're in the backcountry, you could be far away. We're not blessed with the infrastructure that we have in Europe. We don't have many roads, we don't have many gondolas, and that's really, for me, the best thing about New Zealand. But one of the fears is that you're going to land somewhere and you're going to spend 2 or 3 days trying to get back to civilization again, because quite quickly in a paraglider, you can put yourself in that situation. So to get over that, you have to sort of address, well, what is it? Okay, well, I need to have the equipment, I need to be fit enough to walk for a few days, I've got to have a tent, sleeping bag, I've got to know where I'm going. So navigation, know where you're going. So the NZ Topo 50 map for people that are out there hiking and climbing and doing all of that. If you don't have that app, I really suggest just downloading it. It's like $1.5 GB, but it's completely offline. You have it. It's actually one of the best topographic maps that I've ever had. You'd think Europe would have a better one, they don't. The NZ Topo 50 is amazing. I also, as I mentioned before, spend an unhealthy amount of time on Google Earth. So when I'm flying these routes, I know exactly what's on the other side of the ridge. I've planned the route, I've looked at Google Earth, I've flown through it on my PC, and I'm like, okay, cool. I know that there's a landing on the other side, or I know there's not a landing, or I know that there's a hut. I kind of know the topography, and my mates take the piss out of me all the time because I'm like, oh, that's Mount Campbell and that's this mountain. I spend too much time, but I know where I'm going, and that means that when I'm flying, I don't have to think about it. All I can think about is what the air is doing, because paragliding is not a physical sport. Annie, amazing. You did like this huge physical feat. Paragliding's not that. I don't know if you guys can tell I'm not an athlete. Like this, it's a head game. It's a head sport. It's strategy. It's analysing risk. It's making strategical decisions. And the most amount of your brain capacity that is focused on to making those decisions, the easier it is. So you got to basically eliminate the things that are occupying your mind, like, oh my God, what am I going to do if I'm going to land? Where am I? I don't know what's going on. Physical ability to walk. So you got to be able to walk. You fly these places. You got to think worst case scenario. If I land in Stony Creek, for those of you that are real keen hikers, Stony Creek's a really beautiful place. You should go there for sure. No, it's horrible. Don't go there. But if you land there, you know for sure it's going to take you like 2 or 3 days to get out. You're going to have some heinous bushwhacking. Your bag's going to be like 20 kilos. You know, so if you're not confident that you can walk for 3 days through horrible manuka, then maybe go out and do it. And that's exactly what I did. I went out and I did some bushwhacking with a heavy bag. I went and flew and I deliberately landed in places. I did all of that stuff so that when I went to go and fly these routes, I wasn't thinking about, oh my God, what am I going to do if I land here? I just was thinking about where's the best place to get the lift. And maybe that horrible feeling was only like 20% of, not 100. Piloting skills. So basically, like I said, your brain has to be occupied to making strategical decisions. You don't want your mental RAM taken up by, oh my God, I've got to keep the glider open. So for those of you that don't know, the glider, one of the best things is it folds up and fits inside a bag. What you don't want to happen is your glider to fold up and fit inside a bag whilst you're flying it. So you have to keep it open. So the glider pitches backwards and forwards, so you've got to make inputs to keep the glider open. If the air is particularly turbulent, which is what we want when we're doing long distance, because you need rising air, surrounding the rising air is often sinking air and it creates turbulence like you would on a plane. But on a paraglider, it's a little bit more real. So you've got to have some sort of ability to keep the glider open efficiently to get where you're going. To conquer that, doing aerobatics was a huge help for me. It gives me confidence, and that means that when I go to do long distance flights, I'm not thinking about glider control. I'm thinking about decisions. I'm thinking about meteorological, what's going on here. I'm thinking about that, and in the background, my arms are doing this, and I'm keeping the glider open, and I can keep my RAM on actually flying. So preparedness, making sure that I've got the equipment that I need to. My equipment might change depending on the mission. If I'm trying to do a circuit and I'm not planning on spending the night out, I might have less, but I'll have enough that I know that if I have to spend the night out, I'll have enough equipment that it might be uncomfortable, but I'm going to survive. Cool. Okay, moving on. So this is a bit about like what I've been up to. So there's a couple of these are track logs, GPS track logs of flights that I've done in the last couple of years. So what I've been trying to do is because what's quite fun is, I mean, it's really fun to explore and see new places. But I really like the challenge of planning a flight and executing it on the day. So what I've been trying to do is a circuit from Coronet Peak, essentially, and it's the first 200k triangle. It's a triangle flight. You do 3 legs of semi-equal distance, and you come back to the start again. So it's a circle. And the really awesome thing about that is that you start from one place, you fly all day, and you go and see these crazy places that would take you days to walk to, and then you land back at the start again, and then if it all goes to plan, and then go to the pub and celebrate. But so the one on the left is a track log that I did last year, and a couple of things went wrong. You can probably see the track log on the top right hand corner. There's a big bow, and that wasn't the most efficient line, and I also had a bit of an issue near the Cascade Saddle. Getting over the Cascade Saddle took me about half an hour, so that really slowed me down. And ultimately, what that meant was that I ended up on the back of Coronet Peak at 8:30 p.m. So I've gone too far. I just wanted to play. Oh, there we go. I was just going to play some of the video. It's having a think. Guys, we have an IT issue. Yeah, anyway, moving swiftly on. Oh, can I go back a bit more? Here we go. Okay, yeah, so I arrived back at Coronet Peak much later than I was expecting. So, as I mentioned earlier, what happens in the afternoon is when you have these really good thermal days, you get this strong sea breeze that comes up from the south, combined with, in the longer summer days, the sun sets south of west. So what I was doing at the end of the day was flying directly into the sun, onto the shaded faces, into a really strong sea breeze that was coming up and over Coronet Peak. So it was blowing 50 kilometers an hour over the top of Coronet. A paraglider flies on average about 40 kilometers per hour. And what happens when the wind blows over a mountain, on the other side you get quite strong turbulence. Like in a river, if you have a rock, on the lee side of the rock you get like a whirlpool. It's the same in the air. But I need to close this triangle, so I'm flying completely blind into the lee side of Coronet Peak. Just taking my sunglasses off and looking like this, and I eventually managed to close the triangle. Didn't get the 200k, but then I came back and I wanted to land. And now it's getting dark. It's like 9 o'clock, 9:30, and I can't get down because the wind is so strong coming around Coronet Peak, converging on the back and just going up. So I did some spiraling on the back of Coronet Peak, and I eventually found in the sink area at the back of Coronet Peak, and I managed to land on Vanguard. Whew, I'm on the ground, thank God. It's been a long day. And I thought that was it. Awesome, I've survived. And this is the funny thing, is that I spent a whole day flying around the back, taking all this risk and doing all this stuff, and actually the most dangerous part of the day was still to come, and that was me trying to get out from Vanguard out to the Skipper's Road. So I had to retrieve Jesse Jew, the Retrieve King. He's not here, but thanks Jesse. He came in to get me, and I was trying to walk out to the Skipper's Road, and it was getting dark. I couldn't really see where I was going. I knew roughly the direction that I had to go, and I was going down a gorge, and I just got myself bluffed out. It was really stupid. Like, I just kept going down and down and down, and then eventually I got to a point where I couldn't climb back up again. It was dark. I couldn't see where I was going. It was right on the edge, and I got to a point where I had to like take my bag off and throw it off the cliff. And I threw it off the cliff so that I had the ability to at least, hold on and climb. When I threw it off, I realised that I'd just thrown my bag with my inReach attached to it off the cliff. So now I've completely blown it. If I'm really stuck now, then yeah, I'm truly stuck. I did eventually manage to sidle out. Now I didn't have the bag, it was a little bit easier, and I managed to get out and around and get my bag back and walk back out. But I should have just pitched my tent, to be honest. That would have probably been a better idea. So one more thing I'm going to talk about quickly, because I'm probably keeping you guys, is this is one mission that we did this season. This is out on the west coast. And what was exciting about this trip was that people have been out flying on the west coast. People have walked up Fox Peak. People have walked up some ridges and they've glided down in the winter. But no one's actually like cross-country flown up the coast. So we were pretty excited to give it a crack. So that's the track log. We start at Fox Peak on the right, near Fox Glacier, and we fly all the way up the coast, and we landed at the Arthur's Pass. And then the next day, we spent the night in the Arthur's Pass, and we turned around and we came back, and we flew nearly all the way back. We landed just short of Franz Josef. I'm gonna see if I can put this video on, if it will play. But yeah, so basically we flew up the west coast, and we were looking at the weather forecast, and we were originally penciled in to go and fly at Tekapo. The forecast looked really good up there, but then we just seen that the west coast was glowing, and there's a couple of reasons why no one has ever really flown cross-country on the west coast, and mostly it's because, well, for those of you that know the west coast, it rains a lot, it's windy, it's super unstable, there's a lot of bushland, so all of those things aren't really good for paragliding. It's, you're gonna get blown into the bushes essentially. So not many people are that keen on doing it. You don't have places to land. But we seen that the weather forecast was glowing. It was going all the way up the coast in a straight line. There was a convergence line that was forecast, but the cloud base was really low. It said the cloud base was going to be at 4,500 feet. And just for reference, normally we fly around about 10,000 feet. So we seen this forecast, and then the more that we looked into it, the more that we realised that, oh my God, this is actually the perfect place to fly. The spurs that come out from the west coast, they have northeast and southwest aspects. So it's good in the morning, it's good in the afternoon, it's good all day, and it's a really straight line. And you don't have to waste your time going to 10,000 feet. Why would you? It's working really well. We can just hammer up the coast. So much to the dismay of a couple of helicopter pilots. Are there any helicopter pilots in it? Perfect, I'll crack on. Much to the dismay of the guys in the mandatory forecast zone who run people up and down Fox Peak, we decided to go up there and give it a crack. And we did phone ahead beforehand, just for anyone who else is keen to go up and do it. We did phone them beforehand and let them know what we were doing. They had no idea. A lot of them were like, "Well, you're doing what? You're paragliding? So you're going to take off from Fox Peak and land in Fox Glacier?" Like, no, we're going to fly away. Unfortunately for you, we're going to fly across your whole airspace and then out the other side. But it worked out sweet. We're on radio. We spoke to them as we went. And funnily enough, like, one of the helicopter pilots didn't actually know what paragliding was before we came. We flew up the coast, landed in Arthur's Pass. They must have been talking about it in the pub. And that helicopter pilot eventually, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks later, drove to Queenstown and got his paragliding license. So we're slowly making the world a better place. But we flew up the coast and we had challenges. The cloud base was low, as I said. We're sort of bouncing between the bush and the cloud. So it was kind of like, what do you want to do? You want to be too low that you might land in the bush, or get sucked into a cloud? I chose the cloud option. You've got GPS, but yeah, and there were landings most of the way. There were landings that you could land in, but there were sections where your only option was like a bouldery riverbed, which you can land in and you'll survive, but there's quite a high opportunity that you could sprain an ankle, or it's not ideal. And when you're flying low over the west coast bush, you can really see it's not a fun place to bushwhack through. But yeah, we did that. We flew up the coast and we came back, and I really think it's opened up some opportunity for people to go out there and repeat it, do the same as we did. You could keep going. I think the open distance record for paragliding is definitely on there because of the aspects of the spurs in the morning and the afternoon. You could fly from there to Springs Junction. You could fly from there to Arthur's Pass and back again. Like, it's a really amazing place to fly, and I hope other people go out there and do it. I think I've reached my allotted time. Thanks everyone for listening. Cool. I think this is the time where I answer questions. No one's got any questions? Awesome. Anyone actually have a question that I didn't answer? Okay, yeah, go.
Have you ever tried speed riding?
Yes, I have done speed flying. So for those of you that don't know, speed flying is a genre of paragliding. There's multiple different genres of paragliding. The one that I've been talking about is cross-country paragliding, long distance, and also bivouac flying. Speed flying is canopies that are about 30% of the size of what I normally fly. And you can fly really fast, and you can fly with skis, and you can do barrel rolls down the mountain. They're super light, so you can hike up the mountain, and they don't weigh too much, and then you can fly down super fast, and it's super fun. But yes, I have done speed flying. I don't do too much anymore because I'm mostly doing summers at the moment, and in the summer, only really in the mornings is as good. But yeah, speed flying is super fun, and you can ski and fly. And this is something that I think over the last 5 years that paragliding is coming more into people's focus, especially climbers, is that you can do combos. And what's been really exciting is that over the last few years, people who are climbing big mountains, being alpinists, they can fly and thermal fly paragliders, slope land, summit peaks, and fly off all in the same day on an expedition that could take you weeks, and they're doing it all in 1 or 2 days. And it's these combo sports that I think people should really be getting stoked about. And people who are here tonight who maybe do one discipline but are thinking about doing another one, paragliding can take one sport to another level, like skiing. Imagine skiing with wings. You can do that. That's the thing now. Imagine mountaineering, but you don't have to walk in or down. Paragliding can do that. And the technology that they're coming out with at the moment is really expanding the horizons. So, yeah. And anyone else got a question? Jack Bailey?
You got any new expeditions on the horizon?
For New Zealand, there's a couple of things I'd like to do. There's a lot of unfinished business. I'd like to finish that 200k. I wish I'd just got that done and out of the water this year, but I screwed it up again, landed in Macetown, had a beautiful walkout. But there's a lot of areas in New Zealand that have never been flown before, or that have barely been flown before, that I'd love to fly, particularly in the Fiordland and the Olivines and the other side of the Divide. I'm also looking into going to Pakistan this year to fly around some 8,000 meter mountains with some mates. That should be pretty cool. Another way just to see some really awesome views for a pretty reasonable cost. You don't have to spend 2 weeks climbing. You can fly. Yeah.
Theoretically, could you ever fly island to island? Could you ever cross the Cook Strait on a...
It's too far. Realistically, no. On a paramotor you could, if you had like one of those big fans on the back. But no, you couldn't. I don't think it would be possible. One reason is that when you're really close to the coast, the level that the thermals will rise is lower because it's colder air, and the glide's super long. People have done it on paragliders before.
So technically, if you had optimal conditions,
Yeah.
what's the furthest?
Okay, so the world record for paragliding is 611 kilometers, and that was done in one day. It was an 11-hour flight. They did it in Texas. So in the flatlands, you can cope with more wind. So when you've got 50 kilometers an hour of wind, when you're thermaling, you're climbing, you're still doing distance. So he pretty much flew the length of Texas. He did the whole state. Mountains, you can't fly in quite as much wind, but in the flatlands you can do more. And you fly the whole day. You average 60 kilometers an hour. You can do it. Yes, at the back.
How do you take shit?
Okay, this is an amazing question. Whilst you're flying, how do you take a shit? Well, the only way to take a shit while you're flying is to just shit your pants. No one does that. We just wait until we land. But what is also a good question is how do you go to the toilet? And when you're flying for 10, 11 hours, you're going to have to take a wee, otherwise you're completely dehydrated. So I will drink water whilst I'm flying. I'll eat a muesli bar. I force myself to eat a muesli bar because I'm generally not that hungry. But for men, it's a lot easier than women, as you can imagine. For men, it's quite simple. We wear a condom catheter. It's just a Johnny with a tube on the end, which you do your best to not get twisted. Because if you get twisted, it's a bit of a shit show. You can feel it, and you're like, something's not right. And then, oh no, it's not right. But otherwise, if you don't have that, you guys can awkwardly open the harness up, lean out, and do it. Women, it's a bit more difficult, but there are systems. It's like underwear. It's like a sheepy as a part of an underwear. Some glue it on, and it's kind of the same. But I feel bad for the ladies. It's not as easy.
So where's the best place you pissed?
The best place that I pissed, I don't know. Over Albertown? It's a blue sky day. Why is it raining? Do you know that? I got Leo pissed on me once, bastard. I don't think, unintentionally. I don't think he actually knew. He was just really desperate to go for a wee, and I was just at the worst angle. I was just behind him and lower, and it was a really crucial glide. We were gliding from Mount Maud in Harweir to Brest Peak, and we left really low. And deviating from the course was like not the situation I wanted to be in, but it was either that or get pissed on. So I had to go around, and I'm like, "Fuck you, Leo." Going to the toilet is a bit of an issue. Did you have one?
I asked it.
Oh, you asked it already. Anyone else? Yeah, go on.
Has anyone ever paraglided with bike?
Yes, that has happened. Not any notable distance, but they put a glider. So basically, they wear like a string harness, and they clip the harness to the bike, and they cycle with the bike and the glider. They ride down the hill, then you take off, and then they've flown with the bike around, and then landed, and like take the brakes off, and then pedal away. But yeah, it has been done. Yeah, it's Yeah, but yeah, combos. Let's break grounds, guys. Play chess and fly paragliders. Call it a combo. So, swanning. I'm nervous.
What do you love most about paragliding?
What do I love most about paragliding? Just its ability to. It's just an amazing way to explore. You can go to these places that takes so long to walk to, but you can fly in and experience it in a day, and then land back at the start again. Like we can take off from Coronet Peak on an average day. Take off from Coronet Peak, fly up the Shotover, do a lap around Loch Nagar, and come back and land at Coronet Peak again. You can experience that all in one day, and it's all about strategy. It's a mental sport. You've got to have the physical ability to walk, but as long as you're good at making decisions, it's pretty accessible. Jack Bailey again.
Where can I watch all your photos or your videos?
Thank you, Jack. I have been known to put the odd video online. Mostly the videos that I put up, I started making videos, and what I would do is I'd wear a GoPro on my head, and I would talk to the GoPro, and I basically just explain what my thought process is, where I am, what I'm doing, and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So that added context. So when I watch the video back, it's not just like some headcam of me 5 years ago going, oh yeah, well he's in Glenorchy, but I could add context to that and understand my decision making at that time, and it really helped me learn. So I take those videos and I uploaded them to Facebook at the time, I think, and then eventually I started making YouTube videos and putting those online. Similar to, I don't know if anyone's ever watched Nick Names' videos, he's put some really amazing, and it really gave me confidence to go out there and do it myself. I could picture myself in that position, flying up the Shotover, going up the Floodburn, and I knew what it was like. And I thought if I shared that experience, that point of view, what it looks like to be there in that position, and other people watch that, they would get that same response and go out there and do it. And I think to some extent, looking at the amount of people that are now out there paragliding in the backcountry in New Zealand, I hope it's had some effect and some people are out there giving it a crack. But yeah, I make some YouTube videos. It's on the internet. There's nothing I can do about it now. It's up there. Yeah. Are we over? Anyone else? No? One more at the back. No, that's you.
Do you have a backup paraglide, and did you use it?
Yes, yeah. There's a backup, like a parachute. Yeah. So if all goes tits up, when you're flying cross country or most other forms of paragliding, you do have a reserve parachute. It's a basic non-steerable round parachute. So there are scenarios, and especially in New Zealand, in other mountainous areas, that you're in a situation, throwing a parachute is going to save your life, but you're still going to have a shit day. People who are familiar with the Huxley Range, it's a series of jagged, steep peaks. So if you've really lost a glider and you're spiraling, then in that scenario, obviously the reserve is going to give you another opportunity, but you still could land somewhere shit. So when I'm in those sorts of areas, I'm really focusing, keep the glider open, keep it on heading, keep it away from the cliff, because even the reserve, you could be okay, but you could also be in a shitty situation. For aerobatics, we take 2 or even 3 parachutes. When you know you're going to do some crazy stuff to your glider, you have multiple that you can throw. Non-steerable, cutaway base systems, all of that stuff. But yeah, we do carry a spare.
Did you use it?
I've never used it, yes, but yeah, you never know. I'm ready to throw it. I'm ready, and that's something that you prepare for when you're doing, especially when you're doing aerobatics. A really good practice is when you're flying out to the box is to touch your reserve handles, know where they are without looking at them. On my cross-country flying gear, my handle is in front of me so I can see it, but I feel like I'm pretty disciplined. If I need to use it, I'm going to use it. It's not going to be pretty, but it's going to be better than the alternative. But yeah, you do rehearse that.
Is that zero control? Can you pull on the lines and have a look?
No, so there's no control. It depends on your reserve system, but mostly for cross country and long distance paragliding, it's just a donut. It's like a round. When the guys invaded Normandy, That's what it is. Like, it's just, you can't steer it. When you throw it, you've got no option. But and that's really basically down to the simplicity and the lightweightness of it. If you wanted a steerable one, they're much heavier, and you use them for aerobatics when you're more likely to throw it. But if you're not that likely to throw it, then you just take the lightest option. That will save your life. You're still going to have a shit day. Just maybe stay away from power lines and pools of lava, or I don't know. Dominic, Ella.
You could go anywhere in the world, on being in conditions, where and what might you want to do?
I would go to the south of England. No. So I wouldn't go. No, I'd go to the Himalaya. I think. Like, I've never been there before. They're the biggest mountains in the world. New Zealand is amazing. I genuinely, if I haven't plugged New Zealand paragliding enough, the flying in New Zealand is honestly, it's amazing, and I love it. It's complex and beautiful all at the same time. But right now, I'd probably go to the Himalaya. If it was perfect conditions and it could fly around at 8,000 meters, I'd probably just go do a lap around, I don't know, K2 or something. Yeah, it would be cool. Yes?
So, to get a license,
Good question.
how many hours do you have to do and what? Yeah.
It's so if you want to learn how to paraglide, you go to a school. There's one out at Coronet Peak, there's one in Christchurch, there's some in Nelson, and basically you do 40 flights under instruction. They give you all the equipment that's included in the course. They rent you gear. And the first day you're on a small hill, and you basically learn how to get the glider above your head. You do some short flights and you land. And then over the course, it takes 2 or 3 weeks, depending on the weather conditions. If you've got amazing weather, then it's quicker. You obviously need quite specific weather conditions, especially for beginner paragliders. It needs to be quite benign. But that's why autumn's actually a really great time to learn, because the weather's calmer. But you do 40 flights under instruction. They put a radio on you. They talk you through it. You have an instructor on the takeoff. You have one on the landing field. One tells you how to take off. You fly off, and then the other instructor picks you up at the landing field. And the equipment now, the technology in it, they're super safe. Like the school gliders, like they're not particularly exciting to fly if you've been flying a while, but they're super safe and they're amazing for learning. Like literally, you can just let go of the brakes, fold your arms, and it doesn't matter what happens. Like you're going to be sweet, you know. Like, and as an instructor, that must be amazing, because if something's going wrong, you just go hands up, do nothing, just stop whatever you're doing, stop doing it. And these gliders are honestly nowadays are amazing. Like, but it's quite easy to learn. Yeah. It's and you can do it currently.
What about airplane and helicopters? Are they different where you are? Or?
Yeah, so you're controlled by airspace. So there's a bunch of, especially like in Queenstown, we're quite close to the international airport that's right there, inconveniently. If anyone else is not keen on that, then join the bandwagon. But yeah, so yeah, you've controlled airspace. But inside of the Wakatipu Basin, we have a couple of airspace zones that we're allowed to fly in. For example, the Skyline Gondola is a general aviation area, and it's a fishbowl, but we can fly inside of it because we have a permit to do that. There's a ceiling, exactly, so you can't go above 4,500 feet. Is that right, Dom? I should know that. That's 4,500. He's my boss. 4,500 feet up at the skyline, and at Coronet Peak it's 5,500 feet. The further away you get from the Queenstown Airport, it steps up. So it goes from 5.5 to 7.5 to 9.5, and eventually 13.5. And you're not going to get to 13.5 in New Zealand, but you are restricted from airspace. There's other areas, including like the Moonlight and Milford Sound and Mount Cook, where you just have really dense helicopter and airplane traffic, which you're allowed to fly in, but you've got to be aware it's a risk for you and it's a risk for them. So we have airband radios. We communicate with them when we're flying. We let them know that we're there. They let us know that they're not happy that we're there, and then we carry on. Yeah. Alan Swan again.
What's your drink?
I'll have a hazy. We done? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, bloody good. Massive thank you to obviously our speakers, to Ben and Annie for being absolute legends. So thanks so much for that. super entertaining, super inspiring talks. Listen, please hang around afterwards, chat to each other, ask stories. Sounds like Ben might want a couple of beers. Do that, make sure that happens. Massive shout out to the World Bar for allowing us to take over. You guys rock, thank you so much. And I guess the only other thing for me is if you want to come to more of these talks, and we're going to be doing them monthly, is have a look out for the Adventure Hub Queenstown on Facebook. We're going to keep you posted with what's going on, the next talkers and speakers coming up. Also, if you guys have any ideas, if you've got friends who have, I don't know, unicycled down K2, then let us know. It'd be cool to hear about these stories. These are always interesting, and like I say, the stories are more important necessarily than the sport or whatever they're up to.
We're also going to try and we've recorded this one today, so we'll put up the link when it comes up and let you know. So big thanks to Hugh for providing all the video stuff, and also Pivot for providing the audio. So thanks again. Thanks again so much, guys.
Also, Ben, you're still mic'd up for sound. I'm going to say that now. We're recording everything.